My name is Erin Severson, and I'm the vocalist of a Minneapolis-based band called Former Worlds. We started as a 4-piece, and now we're a 3-piece, and my other bandmates are Mike Britson and Eric Christensen.
Yeah.
Our sound is melodic doom. We have a lot of more down-tempo, melodic, clean parts, and then very harsh, abrasive, plotting riffs. I'm originally from Minnesota. I spent many years living out in the Bay Area in San Francisco and Oakland. 3 years ago I moved to Minneapolis, and shortly after is actually when Mike and I crossed paths.
Okay.
Mike actually had asked me to drum for his other band, Minor Tides.
What were they called?
Minor Tides.
Okay.
They haven't played yet. I know that they've been kind of working on things off and on. He's been looking for a drummer and whatnot. But I was very new to drumming when I moved to Minneapolis. I had only been playing for about 3 months, so I kind of passed on that offer, and then he asked if I would be interested in joining Former Worlds as a vocalist, but I had never had any experience doing vocals before, so I kind of brushed it under the rug and didn't really want to, but he kept persisting. He's like, "No, just try." It was very encouraging, so I ended up finally doing a tryout with them. And it's a lot different here because I'm actually involved in making music now, as opposed to me in the Bay Area. I was pretty much just a show goer. Being in Minneapolis here has been I've noticed that it's extremely supportive and encouraging. People always want to get to know you, and they're always, a lot of people show up to things, which I think is really cool. It felt a lot different out in the Bay Area because things were a little bit, I wouldn't say that it's more exclusive, but I think it was harder for me to find friend groups out there. But the music, in Minnesota, we have something going on almost every single day of the week, which I really enjoy because you can, you find yourself with a free night, and you could either go to the Hexagon or Eagles or Mort's, and something's going to be happening. I guess the only thing that I can negatively speak about the scene in general, here we've just lost a lot of the main venues that metal, heavy music, and punk had a deep rooting in, and so it's been really hard within the last 2 years to start getting shows. Triple Rock closed down, and that was a really, really big hit for our community. I know a lot of people had that as just their home base. And then as soon as Reverie closed down, we lost 2 of the biggest venues that would book, local, heavier acts. I haven't been to a house show in a while, but there's always, I know when I first moved here, I went to quite a few house shows. I didn't know anyone in Minneapolis, so I just started going out to shows, and there was a couple in South Minneapolis, and we always have at least a few rotating. If something closes down, then you'll find a new punk spot popping up the same month or weeks after or whatnot. But I know there's a place called Disgraceland. I'm not sure what other ones are still doing shows at because I haven't been to one in quite some time, but in the heavy realm, it had to have been when I was 8 or 9 years old. I had a paper route when I was a child, and so you have your Walkman, and you'd listen to your Walkman while you went on your paper route. My brother had just bought Battle of Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
So Rage Against the Machine, but I wasn't allowed to listen to it because I was too young. So my mom, told my brother you cannot have Erin listen to these. So keep them in your room and don't let her listen to them. But my brother wanted to always show me the cool things that he was into.
Yeah.
So on every paper route, he would stuff a CD into my newspaper bag. And I got Rage Against the Machine was like the first one that I got, and I just listened to that for like an entire year. And he would just sneak it into my bag, and I would like listen to it while I was on my paper route, and then I'd like hide it back in my paper bag and give it to him after my route. So my mom didn't know. She didn't know. And then, you know, he was like into Korn and Slipknot and stuff. So that kind of was what got me into heavier music. And then once I like started looking for music myself, I was probably like early teenage years. A lot of my friends like were really into the punk music, so I'd listen to like Black Flag and I don't know, I got into Black Sabbath and all of that kind of stuff early on, and then it just kind of evolved from there. I really love Lungs a lot. I have a really long history with them, because I saw them the first time in Minnesota here when I was like 17 or 18. And then I didn't see them, you know, for a really long time, like a decade probably. Because that was right when they formed, and they had like their original lineup. It was like Jeff, Nicholas, this guy Mitch. I can't even remember who all was in the band. Jesse Neal, I think, was playing bass. But when I came back, it was an entirely different lineup, except for Jeff was the only original member. And I saw them play at Reverie, and it was like 2 or 3 weeks after I moved back to Minneapolis. And it was still, it sounded so different, but it still just like had the impact on me that it did when I was a teenager. It's like, it's really cathartic in like a beautiful way, because they have a lot of beautiful melodies, and they have the clean singing, and then they have like the really heavy parts, and like I really like that juxtaposition a lot. So they're definitely one of my favorites. So there are a few that really stand out to me, shows that I've attended, and shows that we've played. The first that I remember that the performance really blew me away, that's been one of my favorite shows I've ever seen. I got to go see Refused play in Chicago.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh my god. It was like, I remember being a teenager and being so in love with this band, and you know, they were already disbanded by the time I got into them, so it's like, oh, I'll never get to see them. And then I think they played in like 2010 probably, I think is when they did their reunion show, and they played 2 or 3 extra United States dates. They played like Coachella or something, and then they played in like San Francisco, Chicago, and New York. And like my college boyfriend at the time like surprised me with tickets for my birthday, and I was just like, oh my god, like I'm gonna go see Refused. I never thought that was ever gonna happen, and it was amazing. Like, it was a packed show, the energy was like amazing, people went wild for it, and it was like, to this day it's like still just one of those shows where you're like, oh yeah, I got to see that, like it's awesome. I've seen Cult of Luna a few times, and that is so Cult of Luna, after like my teenage years getting into more metal, like coming from like listening to Rage Against the Machine and kind of delving into the world of metal, Cult of Luna was like the first band that I got so immersed with outside of like punk music and stuff. I remember listening to Somewhere Along the Highway, and I was like, oh, I gotta listen to like everything. You go down back to Salvation, and then Eternal Kingdom came out, and that whole concept behind Eternal Kingdom was just like so fascinating to me. And then even now, like, so I saw them in San Francisco like years back, and it was really funny because not funny that I got into a motorcycle accident, and I was like walking around in a walker, but I had Cult of Luna tickets purchased like 6 months prior to the show, because I had never seen them before, and they don't tour the United States very often. And they were playing 3 US dates, and of course I lived in San Francisco, so they were coming to San Francisco. So I bought tickets, but then I got into a motorcycle accident, but I was being really stubborn. I was like, I'm not missing this show. So I like show up to this show in like a walker.
That's awesome.
It was so stupid. But it was really great because I like got in there and there was like these two like really buff dudes like standing next to me, and they were like, we'll make sure no one like hurts you and like make sure no one like tramples over you and everything. So I was like standing with this little walker and like two big guys like making sure that I was okay during the set. And then the set was done and I was like, okay, thanks. I was like, this is a really great experience, and just crunch myself out of there. But yeah, so I was very persistent in seeing Cult of Luna then. And then I saw them in Chicago a couple years ago when they were touring with Julie Christmas for the why can't I remember the record?
The Mariner?
Mariner, yeah. And that was really fun to see too. There's like the performance was, I feel like the production was so different. There was like costuming and lighting, and the sound was so great. And it was kind of nice to see him in a different place other than San Francisco. I feel like the venue was a little bit better in Chicago. Like the sound and everything just was dialed in a little bit more. I think the thing that I love most about playing this style is there's like a brutal honesty to it, and I feel like it evokes like a lot of emotions, and it's not just, you know, you're not just like playing a catchy hook or something that's going to get stuck in someone's head. Mainstream music, I think, is valued for, you know, what it is. It's like catchy, people like it. But the stuff that's always resonated more to me is like the gritty, heavy stuff, because it's like something that I can connect with. And I enjoy playing this style of music because it's like a cathartic release. And I think both of my bandmates would agree with that too. Like, you know, there's something that feels really good about like being able to just like let loose. And like playing heavy is just, it just feels really releasing. Former Worlds is something that like I mistakenly got into. Like I wasn't really anticipating being a vocalist of a band. I would like to continue like writing and recording with Former Worlds, and it would be really awesome if we could get to a point of touring, which I'm trying to push, and hopefully that will see some light this coming year. We're releasing an LP. It'll be done, I'm pretty sure, in the fall. We're waiting to hear back. It's like getting pressed right now, so we're waiting to hear back for a timeline of when it's going to be done and all of that. But it would be really awesome if this year we could do some out-of-state traveling around to get that around a little bit more. I'm currently learning songs for a new project. It's like another Doom project. It doesn't have a name yet, but it's just like me and one buddy working on stuff right now, and then we're going to have to find like a drummer and guitar player. And then I've been working on solo stuff, so I'm trying to finish writing and then get demoed tracks for that, and then that's something that I will definitely tour with at some point. But it's a little bit harder to focus on when I have other projects where it's like you have bandmates and you're more held accountable to get things done for the bandmates. When you're doing solo stuff, it's just you holding yourself accountable. So that always ends up getting put on the back burner for me. But I have about a month of travel through August, and then when I get back home, it's going to just, like, the whole year is pretty much dedicated to music. Okay. So hopefully this new project will be getting off the ground at some point. And then, like, solo stuff I want to kick off the ground really badly. I'm really, really excited about the new Lingua Ignota. Okay. That is, like, if you need something very cathartic, it's, like, the album of the year. It's a solo project by this woman, Kristen Hayter. And she's, like, she does, like, noise mixed with, like, this really like orchestral. She does a lot of like clean singing, like beautiful singing into these like really harsh noise harsh vocals, and it's a really, really like beautiful and like cathartic combination. And a lot of like the subject matter is like really heavy, so it's I feel like the way that she performs and the way that she writes her music is just like super fitting for the subject matter that she works with.